Last week, I finished teaching 2 back-to-back art classes for beginner artists that are adults, and it is so much fun to work with these folks. My students were wondering at the very end of class, how do I continue to improve? How do I keep getting better? How do I not give up? And so in order to demonstrate this, I want to show you how you can learn to read your visual art. Today, I'm going to offer you 9 tips on learning how to read your visual art. So what do I mean by learning how to read your visual art? Well, there's this other craft that I've gotten really into since I've been trying to stop scrolling, and that is knitting. And what I really like about knitting is there's this concept in it called learning to read your knitting. So what you would do is look at your fabric that you've created and see if there's anything that's off or odd, or a stitch that's misplaced or out of place. This is an important thing to make sure that you can catch your mistakes as you go. But when it comes to visual art, things like painting, drawing, even things like sculpture, it's a lot harder to figure out, is this good? Is this quality? How can I read and see whether or not things are actually good? Learning how to read your own visual art is an important skill that'll help you jump from student to calling yourself artist. And that's the thing that I want to help you cultivate today. In this era, everybody expects you to be moving at a fast pace. Things need to be all about productivity and efficiency, and art is not that. It is an act of rebellion to stay creative in these times, and so let's get into my 9 tips for learning how to read your art. My first tip for you. This is going to sound like an obvious one, but it's one that I forget to do all the time. You need to go look at art. Go to museums, go to galleries, go to your friends' studios, and look at art. Put your eyeballs on it. It is so important to actually go out and look at art. And then I have one additional step for you when you go out and look. In your journal or sketchbook, a thing that you should definitely have, and you should definitely be taking notes while you watch this, feel free to pause while you go do that, you want to not just passively consume art. You want to be an active consumer. You want to be an active learner when you are looking at art. So when you're going out, make little thumbnail sketches in your sketchbook of compositions that you like. Or if maybe your drawing skills aren't quite there yet, just write a quick bullet list as to what you like that you see. Why do you like it? Is it the way that somebody uses orange in a way that feels like wacky and rebellious? Write that down. That is so important. The goal when you look at art is to motivate yourself to geek out and get excited and want to go back into your studio and make things. All right, my second tip for you is to build a visual library. This is so important, especially because you are going to hit roadblocks along the way and you're not going to feel inspired. Your visual library is the place that you can come back to. I have been cultivating a visual library on Pinterest for the last 10 years. In the past, I've used Tumblr. That's another great resource. There are other apps out there that aren't Pinterest, like Sublime, that you can use. But if using an app doesn't sound like your speed and you're a little more old-fashioned, like I tend to be, get some art books. If you go see an exhibition that you love, buy the art book. If you see a show that you wish you could have seen, order the art book on eBay. Go to library sales and see if they're selling any old art books. That's how I have built most of my collection. And flip through those every once in a while. Take some photos on your phone of your favorite pages and save them in a folder on your phone that you can look at when you'd rather be consuming something else. Give yourself that library and tend to it. Treat it like a garden. Plant in it and regularly go through it. When you are feeling uninspired, come back and work on this visual library. This is so important. When you are feeling stuck, it is so great to be able to go in and see the work of artists that inspire you and make you want to make art. So, so important. Another thing that you can do as a bonus to your visual library is add just some quick bullet point notes. Really quick on the screen here, I'll show you the way that I've organized the painting folder on my Pinterest based on shape language and how someone uses color. So as you start to develop categories and an understanding of how to talk about art, you can start to put your different parts of your library into categories, just like a real library. My third tip for you is to think like a scientist. A lot of times my students come to my classes after working careers in very left-brain fields like science or engineering, and they just want to explore their creative side. But your creative side needs a little bit of analytical too in order to really grow and get good at what you're trying to do. So with that, any media that you consume, if you've watched a film, if you've seen a painting, if you've looked at an art book, I want you to think about, why did you like it? Write it down. Turn that into a journal entry. Write on your computer why you liked it, and get really good at identifying why and how it comes about that you end up liking things. This is key. This is how you cultivate a discerning eye as to whether or not art is good in your eyes, because everybody has a different taste and a different flavor of art that they like, and that's okay. Think about it like this. You are just cultivating the flavors and tastes that make sense for you and your work. My fourth tip for you is to hang your art on your wall. Any piece that you finish, hang it up on the wall. Stare at it, look at it, be around it. The more that you can just hang out and be near your art, the better it's going to feel for you. It is so, so, so important to just have stuff up on the wall. What's funny is if you put things on the wall that aren't finished yet, slowly the way that you need to fix or finish a particular thing will reveal itself to you while you just hang out around it. If you don't have a studio, I recommend putting your art up in your dining room or your kitchen, or you could even put up your art in your hallway, some place where you're going to be able to regularly access it, look at it, and let it slowly seep into your subconscious. That way, when you go to work on it again or work on a similar piece, all of the lessons that you learned from it are kind of cooking around in the back of your head. This is really important because it's going to secretly influence you to make better and better art and have a really consistent visual language. Tip number 5, and this is going to come off as a little bit biased because I'm a former art critic, but read art reviews. If you are wondering where to find them, local public radio or local public media are usually going to have really great reviews. You can also look to see if there are reviews in your local newspaper, or just search for art criticism near me. It doesn't have to be visual art criticism, because sometimes that stuff is kind of hard to read on purpose and it can make you feel intimidated. So if you start reading something and you don't understand it, that's another opportunity for you to come back to later, but read film reviews, read music reviews, open Pitchfork, and actually start looking at how people talk about things, how people talk specifically about why they like things or why they don't like things. Take note of that language. If you see words that you don't understand, write those down. This is an important thing to cultivate. Understanding the language around art is going to make you a better artist, and it's also going to help you be a more active community member to those around you. If you like the things that I'm sharing here so far, amazing. I am going to be teaching some of my favorite art classes that I've taught in person online starting next month in July. So if you want to learn more about that, you can sign up for the newsletter down in the link in the description, or you can explore some of the course descriptions through the link down there below as well. My 6th tip for you is to make friends with other artists. This is honestly probably the most important thing for you to do. You have to make art in community. If you are trying to make art by yourself all alone to be someday discovered by a mystery curator who's going to come to you and like climb your hair like Rapunzel, like that doesn't work. That's not real. That is a fiction. The best thing that you can do is to slowly build relationships with other artists. Find people who are in the same space as you. Maybe they're friends that you make in an art class. If you start talking to someone in a beginner art class, ask them, hey, can we meet up after this is over and actually spend some time together practicing the lessons that we've learned here today? Or go to art lectures and meet people, introduce yourself to one person at a gallery opening or at a lecture, and see if you can make some friends. Another thing that you can do with friends is you can do critiques. You can show each other your work and you can help each other improve. The reason that I've been able to get better at knitting in a very short span of time, in a little bit over 6 months, is because I, one, go to a knitting club at a local yarn store every Monday, and I'm surrounded by people who have been doing the craft for 10, 20, sometimes 30 years. I have friends who have been working in knitting for 10, 20, 30 years, and I rely on them regularly. I ask them questions, and I am both humbled and honored to receive their knowledge. Remember that your community is everything. That is where you're going to find your voice, and no art movement was made by one man or one person. Every art movement is made by a community of people choosing to make their work together. My 7th tip for you is that if you are starting to walk into uncharted territory and you don't know what to do, and you're feeling that kind of freeze response that I see in some of my students, especially when they're wondering, hey, what do I do? They want to ask me. Stop. Take a pause, hang that artwork up on the wall, and just think about it. When I told you earlier that art making is inefficient, I am not kidding. It is not about making things rapid fire and quickly. You are going to need time to just stare at things, or take a rest and stare at the wall, or go watch a movie, or play a really good video game. Those are the things that are going to be important to help you grow and change. This is counter to the draw every day kind of narrative, but seriously, rest is just as important for making better art as pushing through and continuing to crank out art. That's kind of the problem that I had with art school, is that it was so focused on the cranking out and not so much about the cultivating rest and understanding when and how you should take breaks. So if you need one, just take a break. All right, my 8th tip for you is to stay curious. This is very important as well. You must stay curious. Do not become calcified in only wanting to do things one way. I had told myself in art school that I would never take a ceramics class. I enrolled in art school. I was like, I'm never going to take ceramics. There's no way that that's ever going to interest me. One of the ceramics classes that I took when I was in art school was one of the most important courses for me to learn how to draw from the figure. It can be so helpful to take things outside of your discipline, to stay curious, and to see what you can learn by challenging yourself to do hard things. If you can't do something, try asking why. Ask yourself, is this an opportunity for me? Can I learn something here? When I took myself on a creative retreat recently in order to figure out how to use the app Obsidian in lieu of doing something like morning pages, I was really overwhelmed with the app and couldn't quite figure out how to work it. So I sat myself down, I got curious, I looked up a whole bunch of tutorials on YouTube, and I watched a bunch of different ones until I found a teacher that made sense for me. And that is key. Watch tutorials, find things, but don't just passively consume. As you are watching tutorials and learning, make sure that you are taking really good notes, staying active, and staying focused on why you are curious about those things. Another thing that I wasn't very good at is that I wasn't very good at painting in plein air, a thing that I do all the time now. And the thing that got me good at it was signing up for a workshop and putting myself out there where I was having to paint out on the trail and paint in front of this really talented artist that I really respected and that I was kind of intimidated by, and get his advice and feedback on my work. And that was transformative. Lastly, my final tip for you before I lose all the light is to work in your sketchbook. Now, I'm not saying you have to fill your sketchbook. I'm not saying you have to work in your sketchbook every day, but you should have a sketchbook practice. And with that sketchbook practice, you should cultivate a series of good rules. Rules that you can come back to, that you can return to, that can be the thing that you use for guiding your way through. Ask yourself, when you open a new sketchbook, where do you want to be with your art skills or your subject matter or what it is you're doing in 3, 6, or 9 months from now? Really hone in and focus on those things. Write yourself a list. Maybe you want to get better at values. Maybe you want to get better at learning how to draw animals. Maybe you want to get better at drawing birds. Maybe you want to get better at drawing the figure or drawing landscapes or really getting to know how to draw oak trees. Those are the things that you should write down as your focus for your sketchbook and treat it as your own curriculum. If you need more support or you're curious to know more about how to do this, I'll put a link to another video that I made all about creating those sketchbook rules. All right, so that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave me a comment or maybe choose to subscribe. If you'd like to join a community of other people who are trying to persistently bloom in their creative practice, you should join my Discord server. There's a link to that down below. And sign up for my Substack newsletter where I send creative prompts every single month for free for you to continue to persistently bloom in your creative practice. And until next time, stay creative and find your own ways to persistently bloom.